Okay, today we're going to talk about a very critical, very important Photoshop technique. This is for skin retouching. I notice with a lot of photographers, they tend to over-retouch the skin and you lose any texture in the skin. The person looks plastic or like a mannequin, and you lose the real human feel of an image, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to lose the human feel of the image. We also don't want to under-retouch. A lot of times you see a lazy photographer who will under-retouch an image, leave a lot of imperfections, and then say, well, I really just like it that way. And the truth of the matter is they just don't know how to do a better job retouching. So we're going to show you a fantastic way to still get that real natural look to the skin with the texture where you see some pores. But we're not going to, while we keep that texture, we're going to go ahead and correct the color in the skin, get rid of any blotches or anything like that. We're also going to retouch creases, dark areas, all of that. And you'll see it's actually really not the most complicated or the simplest way to do this, but I believe it's the best. Okay, once we are here with the image open, you want to make sure that your layers palette is open. You do that by hitting either F7 or coming up to the window option at the top and clicking on layers. That will make sure that your layers palette is open. Right here you see the background layer is there. Now the way that we want to create two different copies of this background layer. On a PC, you hit Control J twice, and on a Mac, you hit Command J twice. And now you have two identical copies of the background layer. We're going to rename these since we're going to work with two separate things. We're going to work with the color of her skin differently than the texture of her skin. We need to separate those two things. So what I'm going to do, first layer 1 here, I am going to double click on the word layer 1 and I'm going to name that color. That's going to be the layer where we just make adjustments to the color of her skin without affecting the texture. Now layer 1 copy, I'm going to double click on that and I'm going to name that texture. And on this layer, we're just going to affect the texture of her skin and not affect the color at all. Let me show you how you do that. Once we have these two layers and we've renamed them, what I want to do is come back to the color layer. I'm going to turn off the texture layer so we can't see it. Come down to the color layer. I'm going to come up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Okay, now you can adjust this, but what I don't want it extremely blurred, and I don't want it to where there's no blur at all. What I want to do, I want to be able to just start to get rid of the pores and everything that I told you we want to keep. I want it to look like they're just pretty much gone. Like right about here. You still see the structure of her face and everything, but you can't see the pores or anything like that. Once you are there, I'm going to click OK. Now, we're going to come back over to our layer box, to our layer palette, and we're going to turn the texture layer back on. And we're going to click on the texture layer, so now we are working solely with the texture layer. We're going to come up to Image, and under the Image dialog, or the Image options, we're going to click on Apply Image. And this dialog box comes up right here. Now what we're going to do, it looks kind of like a high pass filter. It really is, it's almost the same thing, it's just more accurate than the high pass filter. So what we're going to do here, you want to make sure in the Layer option box here, you make sure you select Color. And in the blending box, you make sure you have the word subtract selected. It has to be color and it has to be subtract. What you're doing is you're subtracting the texture. You now have the texture here selected, and we're going to subtract it from the color layer. Right over here where it says scale and offset, what we really want to make sure these numbers say by scale, it has the number 2, and by offset, it has the number 128. Someone much smarter than me figured this out. You just want to make sure that you have those two numbers in there all the time. Doesn't matter the image you're working with. Those two numbers always work. Then go ahead and click OK. Now what we've done is we have separated the texture and the color. Over here in the blending box, in the blending option drop-down box here, while we have texture selected, we want to pull this down and we want to select linear light. Not linear burn, but linear light. And we are back to looking like this. Now, you're going to think right now, as you look at this, you think, This looks pretty much like it did originally. Yes, it does. But what we have done is separated the texture and the color. And then we can go back and really start to work on that. Now, after we've done this, what I want to do is I want to create a group of these two layers. So what I'm going to do, with texture clicked, what I'm going to do is come down, hit Shift, and click on the color layer. Now they're both selected. I right click and I go group from layers. Group 1, we now have a group, a separated group. We will be able to work with that in a little while. You'll be able to easily see the difference between what you've done and what the original image looked like. Okay, now what we're going to do, we want to go to the color. We want to turn off the texture layer again. We want to come back to the color layer. Now what I'm going to do is come up to, okay, you see the difference here. I just want to make sure you see the difference between the two. Now turn texture back on. With color selected, come up to your magic, or not your magic lasso, just your lasso. And what you're going to do is draw around large areas. You can do this around large areas, like her whole forehead here. I'm going to draw a lasso. All right. Now, I want to make sure that this is feathered. I don't want this to be too sharp of an edge in my selection. So what I'm going to do, like right now, if I hit the Q key, you see a mask created, and you see how that's a very sharp edge? I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is come back up to Filter, or I'm sorry, Select, Modify, and Feather. Now, this will change depending on the size of your image. I'm going to go right around 8. I'm going to select that, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. See how we now have a softer edge? Actually, I think I'd like to go even softer than that, so I'm going to change that to, I'm going to go to Select, Modify. I'm going to change that Feather even a little more, maybe 12. Now let's take a look at it. There we go. We got a nice softer edge here that we've selected. Okay, great. Now that I've done that, I'm going to come back up to Filter, Gaussian Blur, again, or go to Blur and then Gaussian Blur. Now this time, we're going to go ahead and make that blur a little bit stronger. And look what we've done. I'm going to zoom in here. You can actually see on her face, look at what's happened to her forehead. It looks fantastic. You still have all the texture there, but you no longer have all of the blotchiness and everything that was there before. Now I'm going to keep doing this around her face. I'm going to select her cheek. And I'm even going to go over the hair here. Now you want to kind of avoid the main part of her hair. It's not really, I mean, we really have separated. Hair is going to register more like texture than color. But we want to get rid of some of these flyaways. So I'm going to grab a few of the flyaways as I select there. I'm going to come back up. Again, I'm going to hit the Gaussian blur that I did previously, or you can hit Control F. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue all around her face doing this exact same thing. Now again, we're not messing with the texture. We are only messing with the color because we've separated the texture. And all we're working on is the color. That's it. Just remember, you can hit Control F or just continue going up there. Look at how beautiful this is making her face look already. So I'm going to just keep going around her face and doing this. Control F or Command F you can use on a Mac. You go all the way around and you keep doing this. Now you see the areas of light and dark and red, how that's all a little bit different. What we're really doing is blurring that and making that smoother transitions between all of that. It really makes the skin look fantastic. It blurs all of the funny little nuances, the ones that aren't good within a person's face, and it keeps all the good ones as we've left the texture of her face there. All right, I'm going to continue going around here on her face. We've got to make sure we get her chin. Now you see all the little areas of her chin here. When I hit Command F or Control F, look at what that does. It just makes her skin look fantastic. I've not gotten right here. I want to go over her face here. I don't want to go over her lips or her eyes. I don't want to grab anything like that because we're really just trying to work on her face itself, on the skin itself. And look at her skin. She looks fantastic. We've gotten rid of all the bad stuff, but what we've left is the pores on her skin. So she still has that wonderful texture and everything to her skin. Now, there are areas of texture that we might want to fix. The hair here, that's an example. We may want to fix that hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here to the texture layer, and I'm going to select on the texture layer, I'm going to select the clone stamp. Now you want to make sure current layer is selected, not current and below, or not all layers. You want to make sure current layer is selected. Now you're going to come down here and you're going to select an area of good texture, an area, we want to get rid of the hair, but we've got great texture here. So what you do is you select an area here, click on it, what you'll do is click Alt or Command. You're going to paint right over. Now I'm not messing with the color or anything at all. All that I am changing is the texture. The color stays the same because we're working on the texture layer. It really is a fantastic way to be able to retouch, and you're not, see, when you do these all on one layer, the color gets messed up when you're trying to make different things. All I'm doing, the color is perfect still. All I'm doing is changing the texture and making her skin look absolutely fan-darn-tastic. Look at that. What we've done. We've given April pretty much perfect skin. We still have all of the pores and everything that are very necessary to make her look human, but her skin looks flawless. And as an example here, let me show you the two side by side. Let me show you a before and an after, and you can just really see the difference in the two. And her eyes are still crisp. Everything looks great. The skin looks great. It's just such a fantastic way for you to just look at the difference between the two. This is what I think is the best way to correct skin and still keep that skin texture. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, you can email us at info@fstop.club. You can leave comments below, and please make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Have a great day.